and I was watching this game, and
Yeah.
I just kept on thinking back to that early 2000s Andy Gray, goalkeeper, what are you doing? you know, yeah, because the first,
That
three goals,
was
I think
was that Almunia, right? Who was
it
playing in
was
United Arsenal in Highbury,
United. Oh yeah.
and then he came out for the ball, and then he didn't get the ball, and Ronaldo just stepped it in,
Ronaldo
and then they
scored. Yeah,
scored.
just
Yeah,
shush the Arsenal fans. Yeah.
yeah. Hello and welcome to another pre-Friday, well, Thursday recording, but it will come out on Friday, I guess, of the Al and Jerry Football Podcast with me, Jerry, and my buddy Al.
What's up, guys? Hope you all are having a good Thursday or Friday, as you're going to be hearing it soon. I think it's only right for me to just say this one word, this very word that is going to be perhaps the hype of the day. So it's Sue. I don't know whether I'm saying it correctly or so.
I don't know. He says it like "see," I guess, like
Yeah.
But I'm not even gonna try and do that.
Don't.
I'll let the Ronaldo fan do that. I think he can try. The way he threw his shirt up into the air, it looked like he threw it almost out of Old Trafford, and that's how hyped he was.
No, it's almost as though Salah has started a fashion.
Yeah. No, I think in terms of taking off the shirt trend, I think he was one of the pioneers of it. Definitely.
Yeah.
I think Salah is a poser. I think Salah's trying to pose like that,
Yeah.
Because that whole thing started with showing off how fit he was, definitely, with all the effort he puts into it. And Salah also wants to show off how much effort he puts into his recovery and stuff like that, I think. And that's the thing with goats. I wonder whether you see, it's like it's almost that they thrive on the doubt, or sort of the second guessing that fans give them. I feel Salah started doing that because a lot of people were questioning, like, oh, the first time he did that was in the United game, when he scored that last minute goal. And a lot of people were questioning him, oh, he doesn't show up in the big games, blah, 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 and like, I guess
he's saying, here I am.
Yeah, here I am. I think that's something that Ronaldo's had to deal with all his career in a way, don't you think?
Yeah, well, definitely.
People second guessing him and questioning him and comparing him, I guess.
Comparing him with Messi.
Yeah, I think people have given him more of the stick compared to Messi. I think Messi has been a poster boy for a lot of people, Barca's darling in a lot of ways. And Ronaldo has been he's had to find at home in a few clubs, in a way.
And I think part of the reason for that is also because he's the guy that you would love to hate. If you're supporting the rival team whatever team he plays for, this is a guy that almost always scores. He has that cocky look to him. His celebration, it's just
provocative a bit.
Yeah, provocative and all above life and all of these things. So I think he's had to deal with his stick, but credit to Ronaldo, I think he's at this age, he's still showing that he is that goal machine, even though he's not particularly playing so well. I thought he didn't have a good game at all, to be very honest, to be brutally honest, but I think he's just meant for goals. It's not about the passes, the passing rates or assists or none of all of that stats, but he's just goal.
And definitely, I guess, just those moments, those decisive moments, I guess, in the match.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to start us off with there's a new sheriff in town. I wanted to have a whole line of, like Real Madrid didn't even. I mean, they didn't even shoot the sheriff, let alone the deputy.
They didn't even shoot the deputy.
It's like the sheriff came in and put them in handcuffs, and like put them behind bars.
Yeah, no, that was a shocker, I think nobody would have predicted that, man.
Definitely,
it shows
definitely.
You.
I mean, you could say it's sort of a fairy tale story for them, definitely.
Exactly.
But just to be, I guess we'll start off with the Champions League review. I mean, so much iconic moments, I guess, from our second match week. I mean, Champions League never fails to disappoint. Yeah,
Yeah.
we all love
Yeah.
it. Beautiful game. It's beautiful to see also different teams sort of matching up against each other because, in a way, your Champions League form is not usually the same as your. I mean, it doesn't have to sort of, it doesn't have to be parallel to your league form. Sometimes your Champions League form can be better and your league form is not good, and vice
Yeah.
versa and everything. So yeah, I mean, on that Sheriff thing, they're a club that started in 1997 and they have sort of a seating capacity of 1,000 in their stadium, but they are sort of funded by this corporation that owns gas, that owns sort of supermarket chains and everything in Moldova. So they do have the funding to be able to make it to the Champions League.
Really
But
humble
that being said,
beginnings.
yeah, humble beginnings in a way, I guess, but they're still funded in that sense. But still, to come to the Bernabeu, right, and to beat Real Madrid, and to score like really good goals. I have to say, the
Yeah, yeah.
second goal that
This is
was
not
scored by
against
the
the run of
captain.
play or anything,
Yeah,
It's
yeah, it
actually
wasn't
really
against
good
the run
goals.
play. It was really good goal.
Yeah.
And Al, I was just thinking, when I was watching that game, Florentino Perez wanted to start the Super League with all these big teams, right?
Yeah.
Like the Juventus, Bayern, Dortmund, Liverpool, Man United, Chelsea, blah blah. All the teams with great funding, bigger fan bases, and everything. But he can't even. I mean, Real Madrid couldn't even beat this club on
No,
that
the
day.
banter aside, you're spot on that. Spot on.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
Because
just
you
thinking that to myself. On that you can't say, right, that the Champions League does not give enough entertainment. You
mm,
can't say that the Champions League, these small teams, they don't give you that much of a spectacle or blah blah blah. I think that really that conversation goes out the window. And the fact of the matter is that they're doing it for the money, right? They understand that both clubs have the bigger fan bases. They can afford the tickets. They can afford to get those networks that, that show you those matches for free. In the sense of the fact that, I mean, I think back of Ajax as well. Going to Bernabeu a few years ago. You remember that match, right? Al?
yeah, what a match.
What a
I
match!
mean,
I mean,
what a spectacle.
yeah, you had players like Matthias de Ligt, Frankie de Jong, Hakim Ziyech in that team, which, to be honest, I didn't know of them before watching the Ajax team do so well in that Champions League, you know. And it's teams like this, even, if you don't have to be, because I don't think Ajax was invited to be a part of the Super League. Al?
Well, I mean, if firstly foremost, I mean, what Super League, Florentino Perez? You got to get past FC Sheriff first. Yeah,
Yeah,
but I mean, you
gotta get
see,
past the group stage first,
you got to get past the group stage first. I mean, the Super League conundrum, nonsense, whatever you may call it, it's just basically for one purpose, and that's to, of course, milk and milk and milk from the cash cow that is this very Super League. There's nothing
Yeah.
else. I mean,
Right.
Florentino Perez, even if he ever had a second to think, but what good does it bring to the fan to see Real Madrid versus PSG for the fifth time in the league, in the Super League? But what's the good in that? What's the good in playing this small amount of teams? Yeah, big teams. It's almost as though these guys are subscribing to a sort of a network that only shows you this blockbuster sort of programs, which obviously we don't want. Football fans, we don't want this. We live for these games where we can talk about Madrid, Sheriff, we talked about Young Boys, Man United, all of these little things where the unthinkable becomes the thinkable, the unimaginable becomes something you can actually imagine. And, on a flip side, I'm really glad, not because, I mean, teams are going to lose and are going to win.
Yeah.
But what this shows is that the Champions League, just like any other league for that matter, any other competition, especially competitions like this, are going to be serving up your David and Goliath sort of a story, and it's not always about getting this giant versus giant. Of course, it's a great spectacle. We all enjoyed Paris Man City, for instance, but we also enjoyed Real Madrid Sheriff. And that's the beauty of the Champions League. And we shouldn't try and change that. So of course, I hope we're going to see this a lot more in the competition.
Definitely. Definitely. I think that is the point there. I think we all watch this game for the sake of the game, and nothing else. I think definitely in terms of the finance, in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of so many things, it does contribute to football, and we do subscribe to it, and we do enjoy watching it in the big stadiums. You
Yeah.
know, we do enjoy the big money signings. I think that is equally a big part of football. But when you boil it down, when you go to the crux of it, when you go to the root of it, this is what football is, isn't it? It's basically just the love of the game, you know, regardless of what job you have, regardless of how much you earn a week, regardless of who's your manager, where you're playing, how big your city is, and all that. I think all that is definitely complementary, but is secondary. Is
Yeah,
secondary to what
definitely.
football is. And the primary fact is that you do it for the love of the game. You do it because you grew up loving football. You grew up because you maybe had a hero in football and you wanted to do that. And for us, even as football fans, we grew up because football, you know, gave us something else to focus on, you know, this
Yeah,
studies and work and everything like that. So I mean, I just want to make that point that the Champions League itself, I mean, UEFA can't really, you know, play the hero card here. I mean, they can't really, you know, I mean, there's a lot that goes on, you know, within, you know, these governing bodies. But in the sense, Champions League, I think the format works very well. You know, maybe more chances could, I mean, this is the first time I've seen a team from Moldova. Maybe more chances could be given to these teams in small countries and what so and what so. But I personally, I don't see the need to isolate just the big teams and create a league around that. I think eventually it would lose its charm. Eventually it'll get boring. Eventually it'll be repetitive, and you know, we won't get to see new, fresh, young players. You know, we won't get to learn about different countries and different cultures. And that's just the point I wanted to make. Basically, you know, why do you need a Super League when you have, you know, big teams like Sheriff beating Real Madrid? You get teams like Young Boys beating United. You get teams like, so. I mean, this it's happened so many times. You know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, definitely. Very good point, lah. I mean, it's just
Yeah, I mean
basically
that.
for a capitalistic point of view, only, nothing else. I
Yeah,
mean, you
yeah,
can't fathom any other idea, right? No.
exactly,
What's there?
exactly. So yes, what I mean, that what a performance by Sheriff. Obviously won the game by 2 goals on the day, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
in terms of stats, definitely Real Madrid had 76 possessions. So it was against 24 possession, right? But chances come to those who create it, chances come to those who take it, you know. And that's the most important thing. Definitely a great result on the day. We don't know what their Champions League story will be like, but we'll definitely sort of hoping they would get another chance maybe to prove themselves, and in the future to see them in the Champions League. I guess we'll move on to Ronaldo, I guess, and United, because we all thought the talk was going to be of PSG and Man City and blah blah. But to be honest, I think just the way that game was won, right at the dying embers. I think Al made a point that you were saying that, you know, it was far from Ronaldo's best game, but he had gotten the goal, and that's what matters. I think the biggest players step up in the biggest moments. What could you tell me about that match, Al? Because yeah, I guess it took a while for both teams to get sort of going. You know, Villarreal with a second half goal, if I'm not mistaken, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then Alex Telles with wow, what an equalizer that was, you know, with the first time volley, right?
Yeah, I never knew he could do that. And then, what a worldie. And I think, okay, looking at the game, I mean, on a Man United perspective, great. Your star player, last minute goal, Fergie time, and all of these things, yada, 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 and all of that, right? But, maybe one of the unsung heroes during the game was David De Gea, because, honestly, Villarreal should have been at least about 2-0 ahead in the first half,
Yeah,
maybe even three.
yeah. What a
And
save. He looked winded at the end of that run of play where
yeah, no,
Villarreal looked like
exactly.
they were going to get the second goal, you know?
Exactly, and
Yeah.
he's got a good run of form, because he was having a patchy form last season. So that's of course a positive. But to be very honest with you, apart from the goal, apart from the Ronaldo, hysteria and all of these things, there are so many mounting issues for Man United.
And Oli, yeah.
Villarreal, we know, low
Yeah.
block again, except with a lot more technicality, a lot more technique in the team. It's not your typical Burnley who's just going to be set up shop. And Villarreal looked like they could bypass the Man United midfield like it was nothing. And if you're a Man United fan and looking at the fixtures that they're going to be coming through and all, it's very worrying. I mean, we saw the performance against Villa over the weekend. We're saying, okay, something's got to give, something's got to change. But there was so little that was giving, and even when they were 1-0 down, of course, the urgency then became much greater, which of course is the question mark. Why don't you start like that? But it feels very funny because it feels like these are guys who are playing on the Sunday Park for the first time,
Right. There's probably a lack of chemistry, lack of cohesion.
Lack of chemistry. There is no cohesion. McTominay didn't have the best of games. I thought Lindelof was good, but Diego Dalot, shocking. I think he let the fullback that gave the assist.
Danjuma, I think that guy's name was.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was cut off pretty easily. Alex Telles doesn't look so comfortable on the ball. Of course, very good goal. Let's not take away anything from that. But I think Solskjaer has got to, he's got to do something really quick. Everton.
No, I think if we get to the bottom of it, right?
Yeah.
You can blame the players, definitely. But you need to see a clear game plan, I think, and the players need to trust the manager,
Yes.
And a team without a game plan and a team without sort of that motivation to go and win games and clear tactics. One of the things that you can see when, a team doesn't have a clear game plan is players you would think would have, like Alex Telles, Diego Dalot. I think they're not bad players, I think they're good players, but they probably just lack some sort of clear vision in a way to do the game, right? So if you lack those clear tactics, if you lack an objective, that's when opposition teams can sort of pick you apart, right? Because you become easily exposed, you're not playing with that freedom. You're playing with a bit more labor in that sense. You're becoming pressured. And once that sort of shifts, you can tell when a team comes with a clear game plan, right?
Exactly.
I mean, the team that is not playing so fluently so easily gets put on the back foot. And how many times have we seen United get put on the back foot this season? I mean, I was just thinking to myself, Al, personally, maybe this is Ole's last chance to win a trophy, because to be honest, I would like to see him be given more time, right? To build something, to build his own team. But I think United at the point in time they are now, right? With Ronaldo there, I don't think he's going to have many. So I would give him 2-3 years. I mean, I wouldn't want to say that to this point because he has proven us all wrong, right? But it seems like United needs some sort of change right now. What do you think about that? It seems
Definitely.
like and also something I've observed, Al, is the fact that I've seen Ole make some weird statements in some after his games. I've seen that with Klopp a lot when he got rattled the first few seasons that he was there. He would start to blame sort of the referees or other managers, because if I'm not mistaken,
it's the pressure.
Yeah. It was before the Aston Villa game where he took a shot at Klopp, saying that some managers have problems with United getting penalties, or feel like United got a lot of penalties, with that pre-VAR era, and I think 2 seasons ago as well. And Klopp, I think, did have a say in how United does, have penalties. But for him to mention it and sort of bring it up after that whole thing was, was I guess, it's in the past now, right? It's all new sort of in that thing. And I've seen that, especially, I think you've seen that in Mourinho, right? He gets more defensive in his press conferences rather than discussing the game and discussing the tactics. So the press conferences become dominated by off topics. That means things that are off sort of the team and the match. So, penalties, referees, other managers, blah, blah, blah. That's one thing I observed recently.
No, I mean, definitely. I mean, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, let's be real, right? The honeymoon period, it's over. Now it's the real deal. And I think now the pressure is on because he's not been having a good run of games. Yes, 3 points here and there. But it was from the Wolves game, the Southampton game, the Newcastle game even, where we won 4-1, where Man United won 4-1, right? And, the pressure is on for him. And, it's true. I mean, you see these managers, of course, Mourinho, I think he does it to deflect the blame a little bit. So, of course, that's that side to it, of course. He's smart. He's an agent provocator on that sense. But for Solskjaer, I think he feels the heat. I think, comments made by Gary Neville, there was this whole Rio Ferdinand incident about how,
Yeah. Yeah.
style of play and so on and things like
Yeah.
that. So of course, he is under the cosh a little bit, and he's got to make things change very quickly. See, the great managers, the great tacticians, they adapt. See,
Yeah.
things are not working, they adapt. Injuries happen. That's football. It's part and parcel, right? So,
Yeah.
we're going to have to see how the coaches, because all that we're looking at on the football pitch, the problems that Man United have, these are the same problems that we've been seeing. And this is not, of course, you can point a finger, oh, this guy should do better, Pogba should do better, etc., etc. But I think it's a very, very predominant coaching problem. You
Right.
could see that
Right.
they just look like sometimes they're clueless. When a player is in acres of space, we watch Ronaldo closely and we can see the runs he makes. But it takes 2-3 seconds later where Ronaldo probably has to get back on side, where somebody picks a pass up. And I think these are the small little problems that he needs to face. I think Maguire, of course, he didn't play. I think he looks a shadow of himself. I don't think Luke Shaw is his marauding self, on the left. Then Sancho needs time. All of these little problems. And again, that's down to the coaching. It's down to the coaching. Simple as that. So something's got to give, because they've got Everton over the weekend. Everton are a well-drilled side. We all know Benitez.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, you don't want to wait for something really bad to happen, like a big loss or a 5-0 loss where something just capitulates and then it all falls apart in one instant. I think this is where sort of the management has to make a decision where they want to see the club going, because I feel to make the best out of Ronaldo and a squad that has not won anything since Mourinho left, right?
Yeah.
I think it needs sort of a change, definitely does. It can't be experimenting. I think to make the most out of the squad at hand at the moment, to get rid of some of the deadwood, and Marcus Rashford's not getting any younger, Jesse Lingard's not getting any younger, and there is a good, David De Gea, for the example, he's not going to be at that level for that many years. Obviously I don't want to speculate and everything, but the United squad looks ready for someone to just come and for that team to take the world by storm. It's just brimming with so much of just I would say unharnessed ability right there, right?
Yeah, talent all around the pitch, which is the
they're just not looking at their best,
Yeah.
And maybe Ollie would do benefit for it, because I feel right now that in terms of managers in the league, right, he's facing the most amount of pressure.
Definitely.
And the media is going to be on him, and it's just unhealthy pressure. That's just unhealthy mental burden also that's coming his way in that sense. But aside from all that, I think we'll focus more on the football in that sense. So moving on now, the PSG City game. Wow, Ashraf Hakimi really left Grealish on the floor. Did you see his Instagram post? I think Ashraf Hakimi had this Instagram post where Grealish was literally laying flat on the floor. Right. So I'm going to just speak about the game, and I'll ask you a few things that I observed, right? So with that game, it took a while for Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar to get going. I felt they didn't have the best of games in terms of fluidity. And I think that's something that we're getting used to. I think Messi with that decisive goal at the end there, right? With just 1-2 with Mbappe, and he scored that goal, right? So definitely City had the chances, but they were just floating in balls into a box with no striker there. And I think that was the major problem. They just didn't have someone to finish those chances.
Right? Again, same old story, isn't it?
Same old story, yeah. But one thing I noticed, aside from all that, I don't want to talk about the same old things. One thing I noticed, Al, two things, right, with that PSG team. That midfield is a very underrated midfield, I feel, with Ander Herrera, Marco Verratti, and Idrissa
Verratti, what a player, man.
Yeah, Verratti, what a player. Pep was basically proposing to him, at the end of the match, that he loves him and giving him the flowers and everything. He might ask Verratti out for a date in Manchester soon.
Yeah.
Aside from all that, that midfield, I feel, is really underrated. And what Poch is able to do, right, I feel, I don't know whether he can manage the biggest talents and the biggest names, and obviously that would reveal itself to us. But what I saw is for him to get the best out of Ender Herrera and Idrissa Gana Gueye, I mean, those are players you wouldn't equate with, that sort of superstar quality, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, both of them, even in their international careers, Ander Herrera's not playing for Spain, Idrissa Gana Gueye, I think he's playing for Ivory Coast, But what Poch is able to do is to make the best out of that midfield. And for me, I feel, for PSG this season, that midfield has been bailing them out a lot of games. They've been very strong. They've been getting goals. They've been defensively solid. And that's one thing I noticed about Poch, Al. Do you think one of the things about Poch is he can get the best out of players you would think, are deadwood, or they wouldn't make it, or they're not PSG type players or world-class ability players? Because I feel if they can get the front attack balance right and the defense right, because to be honest, it didn't look like Donnarumma was going to be beaten on the day. He makes saves look so easy. It's almost impossible, it seems, to score against him, I wanted to ask you, do you think with that squad, Poch can pull off a surprise this year and win the Champions League, or maybe win some trophies, right? Not on the fact that they have the Mbappes and the Neymars and the Messi in that team, but he can make the best out of the players who they wouldn't be in the headlines, And another thing I noticed, Al, is this new trend of goal scoring and attacking fullbacks. I mean, with the likes of Achraf Hakimi, with the likes of
Mendes.
Mendes and Trent Alexander-Arnold and Robertson. Do you think there's a new trend of fullbacks being more attacking and being more playmaking?
Well, to answer your latest question, definitely 110%, right?
Yeah.
You look at all the top teams.
New trend,
Yeah, you look at all the teams which are performing to their greatest levels, right? We speak of Bayern and we think of Benjamin Pavard, We speak of PSG, Achraf Hakimi, Nuno Mendes, right? We speak of Liverpool and Andy Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold, perhaps the most underrated force. Of course, people talk about Salah and Firmino and Mane, but modern football, if you look at it, your fullbacks bombing forward, supporting the play in the front, and that's a huge asset, right? And speaking about that very term, I thought since we're speaking about this asset being so great in modern football, João Cancelo and Kyle Walker didn't have the greatest of fullback games, which tells you a lot. Now, they obviously represented Man City, the losing team in this very game, isn't it? Now, if you look at it, now coming to your question of the Poch excellence and what he's created, you're right. When I saw the lineup, I thought, maybe Wijnaldum would be perhaps a better fit. I'm not so sure about Ander Herrera. Could be better to see.
Or Idrissa Gana Gueye. I think a lot of us slapped.
Idrissa Gana Gueye as well.
Yeah. I mean, he got the goal. He got the first goal and sort of set the tone, right?
Correct. He got the goal, and Marco Verratti, household name. I think that one we can't fault. And I thought his pressing in that game was just fantastic. I tell you, it was just brilliant to watch. So Poch has got that three playing well, in that 4-3-3. Now, the top three perhaps maybe still needs a bit of gelling, but let me tell you, I think if he can sort out the defense and the strikers, sort out maybe seems a little bit rash, but to me, before looking at the game,
find the flow, I guess. Find the flow. Find some rhythm, basically.
Yeah, looking at the game, I thought Kimpembe, Marquinhos, they were going to be the weaklings. I thought Sterling, Grealish are going to be giving them a hard time, Mahrez, but quite the opposite. And they played well, which if I've been reading correctly in League R, what's been happening is that they've not been exactly playing the best way, right? And same goes for Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar as well, right? I thought, like you said, they needed time. The Messi goal was obviously great, right? Back heel, taken well, ball control, and of course, top bins. But I thought they didn't have the greatest of games as well. There was a few times Mbappe played really well, beating the offside trap, and getting good runs. But I thought, generally speaking, it was your midfield that stole the show. Idrissa Gana Gueye, Herrera had one good chance, but he hit it straight at the keeper. Verratti, let's not go there because he was fantastic. So PSG can actually go far if that flow, like you mentioned, is going to be is going to be very much coherent in that team, you know. And Man City, yeah, I mean, we've spoken about this before. You know, I thought they could have done a little bit better. And here's the thing, because they did have the chances, yeah. There was one chance, I think it was
Bernardo Silva, right?
Bernardo Silva.
Yeah, open goal basically.
My grandma could have tapped that in. I mean, okay, that's a bit harsh, but still, I mean, that was a shocker.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think he's also thinking to himself that he doesn't want to be in those situations. I think Bernardo Silva wants to be in those situations where he's creating, he's moving, he's finding spaces.
Yes,
he doesn't want to be like, you know, having that decisive moment in front of goal, you know, that's just like not something you want Bernardo Silva to be doing. Well, it's not his strength, you know. And I think it was clear, like in games like this, you maybe sometimes need a striker to bail you out, you know, put pressure, because someone like Aguero, regardless of how big Donnarumma is, he can smash the ball through his face, you know, like he just has that killer instinct, you know, that maybe some of the Jack Grealishes, you know, with that nice touch and that flair finish, you know, with that finesse and everything. Sometimes I don't think the finesse works. Sometimes I think you just need to put your foot through it and basically like smash that ball into the net, you know.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's what City was lacking. I thought when Phil Foden came on, he had a good, good, wouldn't say cameo, but he had some good couple of minutes. But yeah, Man City, I mean, not greatly alarming. I still think that on the day, if they get to click, they could definitely give any team any sort of problems. But with this, I just didn't see that enough in the Paris Man City game. You know, I thought that they had the chances. Donnarumma, again, brilliant display. You know, but yeah, you know, all around on Paris, I think if, like I said, if they could, if you could get the front three, you know, replicating that MSN, the Messi, Suarez, Neymar back in Barcelona, then of course we're looking at serious trouble. And then all of a sudden you get this team being the favorites in the Champions League. You know, on paper they are, but I just thought it didn't feel like that in the past games. But
it didn't. They definitely were finding it hard to gel until that opportunity came to Messi. You know, I think they were having a few 1-2s, like, you know, our producer was watching the match and he told me a few things, but it didn't. And I was watching another match, but I had that sort of on a live watch along. So someone was commentating on that game, and it just didn't seem to click until that decisive moment, you know. So I think what Al is trying to round up here on the fact is, I mean, your midfield, your defense, your goalkeeper can be brilliant on the day, but everybody is watching PSG purely for Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi, and to see that work, you know. And eventually, if they will become a force that's unstoppable, those three need to be firing on all cylinders. And I think for those three, even to create some sort of chemistry, there needs to be some sort of humility in that sense.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
All of them can't be always going for goals, you know. I think all of them have to make each other work. So basically, if you're going for a first goal in the game, you have to look for your buddy if he's in a better position, instead of going for the goal yourself, instead of thinking like, no, I can win this game by myself. You know, I think one of the key things of MSN that made it work was the fact that Suarez not only got the goals, but he managed to assist Messi and Neymar a lot of times, you know, and seamlessly they got goals and assists. They were all high on goals and assists. You know, even Neymar, right? In the MSN trio, in that year that they had, he was leading the assists out of the three. So that showed he was like, okay, Messi and Suarez can have more of the goals. I will try to find them more, you know, and I will get some decisive goals along the way. It's all about sort of finding the balance with your partners and trying to make it work, I guess, in that sense, you know?
Definitely. And if they can do that, then of course, you know, Paris is going to be, it's going to be rocking.
Yeah, it's going to be louder. These Parisians are going to be out of control. And I mean, the French cannot get more arrogant at this point, you know.
Definitely.
They're already quite passionate. So, so moving on from PSG and City, I guess, I mean, there was more to speak about PSG on the day, and I think City. I mean, Guardiola just needs to find some sort of formula that will work, because Yeah, I guess we will touch on this when we do the preview. So moving on, L, was the Juventus and Chelsea game. So we're just covering the English teams, right?
Yeah.
So Juventus and Chelsea game. Wow. I felt that first half was a bit quiet. Obviously, in sort of reflection to the weekend, I think Tuchel started with Havertz in the team, right? And
Yeah.
Ziyech.
Yeah.
He wanted to get some sort of attacking talent there. I think he wanted to open up the game a little bit more, right?
Mm, mm,
So the first game was a bit lackluster, didn't have many chances, and I think Havertz didn't have the best of games, right? But one of the decisive moments in the match was the start of that second half and Chiesa with that goal. I think, I mean, that shouldn't be happening. He shouldn't be finding space that quick after the half, right? And that's something that Tuchel touched upon also. The fact that they shouldn't be making those mistakes at that level, and they were punished, rightfully so. They were punished. And I think Chiesa with a well taken goal. It was sort of a sloppy goal, but it was a good sort of shot into the back of the net there. So I mean, do you think starting to show that system is starting to show a little bit of leaks? Definitely still early days. That was one thing I noticed. And the other thing I noticed was that Lukaku had two decisive chances, right?
yeah. Yeah.
End of the match. Which the second one I think was a lot more, and he did not do well with that. I mean, the shot went over the bar, and you could see on his face he was as shocked, I think, as the fans were. You know, so like, has Lukaku shown this before in terms of going missing in the big games? To be honest, he's not had the best of records against Juventus, right? But this was a chance for him to show, in a different team with a different setup in that sense. So those were the two things I got out of the game. And for Chelsea, definitely Juventus, more favorable team on the day and the happier team on the day
Yeah.
itself. I think with that back line of Bonucci and Delete, I think
Matthias Delete.
yeah, I
Yeah.
think you can't take away from Juventus, and they have shown in the past to be very defensively solid in that chance. And Chiesa, I think, will be a breath of fresh air for that team. Definitely, he's one of the up and comers to watch. So, what can you tell from those few points there? Those few decisive, I guess, moments. One of it was that mistake. I don't think, despite what Chiesa and the intensity that Juventus showed from the second half, the start, I don't think Chelsea should be
Mm.
making those mistakes. Lukaku missing the decisive chances, and and Chiesa, I guess, what he brings to that Juventus team.
Yeah. Well, again, I think one of the themes of today's show is coaching, and Chelsea set up. They played with a 3-4-3. And the front three, of course, Hakim Ziyech, Romelu Lukaku, and Kai Havertz. Which I felt that if you look at Kai Havertz and Ziyech, I thought they didn't have the best of games, and of course Lukaku for that matter as well, right? So therein lies again a problem of cohesion in the front three, right? And it could be small little blips for Chelsea to perhaps look at, and we'll speak about the defense later on, because Federico Chiesa, man, I tell you,
Yeah,
what pace, lah! I tell you, this guy, he's been carrying
pace,
on the uniform.
intensity. Yeah,
Yeah, no, but yeah, Chelsea. I think with Chelsea now for Thomas Tuchel, it's about getting the best of those players, because obviously I think Mason Mount is out, so that's
yes,
one of your best creators not going to be able to be playing for
yeah,
you. I think
yeah,
Ziyech, he's not been having a good time lah at Chelsea. Let's just put it that way. And I think that
yeah.
even in the Premier League starts, and I don't see him playing the same way he plays for Ajax. And of course, understandably, different team, different tactics.
Yeah, and personally, I think on that matter, I was just thinking the same actually. Ziyech is just a shadow of the player that he looked. I don't think
Yes,
he's getting
yes.
enough game time at Chelsea. To be fair, I think to be motivated and to be on your best form at Chelsea, you have to be a bit thick-skinned in the fact that you are not going to be the main player of that team. There are going to be a lot of other options there ahead of you, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
But you have to sort of rise against that challenge and prove that you
yeah.
should be in the team. Whereas at Ajax, I feel he was a big focal point of that team,
Correct,
you
correct.
know. And right now, to bring him to Chelsea, where he's starting one weekend and not starting and starting, he can definitely throw off your rhythm lah, in that sense. Don't you think so?
And again, definitely a good point that you mentioned there as well. And similarly that we see players going through this rough patches and it's just not happening for them. They're the shadow of what they used to be when they were in teams like Ajax. You remember Donny van de Beek, same situation as well.
Yeah,
but at least
Donny van
Hakim
de Beek.
Ziyech is playing,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that one of the main reasons again
Even Salah when he
qualified-
went to Chelsea, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And I think he then went to Roma, and of course then the Renaissance then happened and things got better. But I think for Juventus, I think they stopped Chelsea playing a lot. Alonso and Azpilicueta has been fantastic for them. But I thought Alexandro and Danilo was very much comfortable against them. There were a few moments, I thought Bentancur and Locatelli had a good game as well.
In that midfield.
Yeah, and Juventus, and let's not forget, the main man whom until today I don't understand his goal celebration, Leonardo Bonucci. Just I tell you, just a leader. It's an all-round leader. You can see him instructing Danilo and all of his players. You can see him just shouting at them. Literally. Because I watched the highlights of this Juventus-Chelsea game, and I thought he was immense as well. And he kept Lukaku very quiet. Yes, coming back to Lukaku, of course, this is not a common. I mean, this is not a new problem. This is something which has been there with him. Great presence in the box, but sometimes, again, the big game record is the worrying bit. We saw it at Man United, Everton, even at Inter Milan. I think he did score against AC Milan, but it was a penalty. Against all these top Italian sides, you see a little bit of quietness, and again, someone like Lukaku, you need to feed him constantly. That wasn't happening, in the game. Ziyech and Havertz was not doing that at all. I mean, not up to the standard. And that's of course partly down to Juventus centre backs, but still, you need to give him chances. He's not a one chance, one goal kind of a guy.
I think that's more of a Ronaldo type.
Exactly. You need to give him a couple of chances. He will get the goal eventually. But that's the thing, like in big games, you need your guy to be one chance, one goal. And unfortunately, I don't see. Still a long season ahead, but historically, Lukaku is not that guy, and he's got to, they've got to work on this little blips. Of course, Tuchel still has started the season very well, but little blips here and there.
Yeah, definitely. I think Lukaku is someone where he needs to be, I think in a way, sometimes his touch and his playmaking, don't get me wrong, he has had moments in United, I remember, where he would assist Martial, where he would have those moments where he would be sort of a playmaker, right? But he's not going to be a Harry Kane, where he's predominantly on the ball creating. So he has to sort of just play off those chances sometimes. And I wonder maybe whether his focus trails off when he's not in the game too much, Whereas players like Harry Kane, players like Salah even, because Salah has that killer instinct to get the goals, but he's also involved in a lot of creating. So he's not just waiting for those chances. And you see someone like Ronaldo as well. He can be not involved in the game, but when that chance comes, he's like just cold-blooded. Maybe that comes with maturity as well, and maybe that's something that, Lukaku definitely could work on in that sense, where that one chance comes and he just buries it. Because let's say if even he had gotten one goal, right, to draw the game, it would have been a good result,
Right. Away from home, 1 point. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But with that quality in that Chelsea team, right, they should be coming away with something. I bet they're disappointed not to come, not to sort of not to come away with something. But I think Al made a great point there. I think someone like Leonardo Bonucci, right, I think his DNA is football, His DNA is Juventus. His DNA is sort of just being a leader in that team, and that's something Christensen and Rudiger, right, they can look towards, in terms of they had a little bit of a defensive lapse there at the second half. That is something Cellini and Bonucci, with their old age, you can call them old men and lacking pace and blah, blah, blah. I don't think they make mistakes like that very often. And they've just, despite, they've had bad moments in their career, but to stay in that Juventus team for that long, in that Italy team even, and to win something, just shows that sort of the passion.
It shows the professionalism as well.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly,
these guys at that top level, for such a long time, right?
Yeah.
Mad respect for those players like Bonucci, Jorginho Chileni, all these, it's fantastic all round.
Yeah, exactly.
Well done, Juventus,
So, well done, Juventus. And I think Chiesa as well. His goal record, right? He's not just a winger who's like there for the dazzling skills, blah blah blah. But I think he has an eye for goal,
Yeah,
and that is one of his biggest sort of his biggest talents are in that sense.
Nice.
I think
I think he's going to be one of the hot prospects in Europe, lah. I really do see, this guy.
Definitely.
People are going to have his eyes on him already.
So moving on to Liverpool and Porto. Wow, Salah joked after the match out that the Estadio Dragao should be their home games for the Champions League. We've completely dominated in that stadium, man. I mean, Liverpool have completely dominated in that stadium, So I just read you this stat here. So Liverpool remain unbeaten against Porto in their 9 meetings, won 6, drawn 3. So Porto have lost back-to-back home games in the Champions League for the first time since September 2017. So there's not much there. I think there are more stats in that sense, but the amount of goals we've scored over the years in Porto and against Porto, I'm not shocked with that scoreline. A lot of people are going to say, oh my God, Liverpool are having the best of games. They're flying at the moment, blah, blah, blah. But I think Porto didn't make it too hard for them. To be fair, right?
Quality.
To be fair, one of their top defenders pulled up just before the match and Pepe couldn't start the match. So right from the offset, they were hit with injury problems. So I'm not going to bash this Porto team. I'm not going to laud Liverpool overly too. I think just based on the run of play, Liverpool were the better team on that day. But in terms of don't count out this Porto side yet, because even a player like Otavio, I think he had a good 13-minute showing until he pulled up with an injury. So that squad is really having injury issues at that point there. And one thing I did see from the manager, he was upset with the way the keeper made a few mistakes. I think for that first goal, he could have come out and got that. Even when
the Mane goal
Firmino came on, he came chasing after Firmino when he should have just stayed back and stayed in his line. So it's just that sort of. I think the keeper there, I think he needs a bit more experience in terms of when to come out and when to sort of, But one thing I saw from the manager was, right after the game ended and everybody was leaving the pitch, he sort of called his Porto players into a huddle, right? And the camera sort of focused on him. And he was talking to his players, and I could see him gesturing 5-1, 5-1. He was almost saying hold on to this feeling, guys. These guys have just come here and beat you 5-1 in your stadium. It's like, what are you going to do when you go there? You know what? I sort of foresee a tougher challenge definitely when they do come to Anfield. And you don't count out these Portuguese teams like Benfica, and you see what they did to Barcelona. You see Porto, what they're able to do, and even with Sporting Lisbon, I think these Portuguese teams deserve a lot more respect. And it's not just, Liverpool dominated Porto, or Liverpool smashed Porto and blah, blah, blah. No, these are great teams with a lot of history and definitely deserve to be given a lot more respect. But the decisive point for me in that game was Curtis Jones, right? So he had 4 assists, and he's on the back of scoring a goal against Brentford. And all around, he was the best performer of the game. So I guess Harvey Elliott's injury came sort of as a positive for Curtis Jones. He's 20 years old, still only 20 years old, but he's been in and around of that first team for the last 2 years, I would say. And do you think this is his chance, Al, to sort of prove himself? Because when Gerrard was the academy manager at Liverpool, one of the things he says was he built his team around Curtis Jones because he was a goal-scoring midfielder. He could beat his man, and he could be defensive as well. So he has a few roles. He can even play on the wing. He can play in the front three. So this was one of the things, we were talking about Liverpool not making the signings, blah, 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 and all these kind of things, right? Do you think Klopp is that type of manager to make the most out of players like this, right, where they wouldn't get a chance in a big team? Because Curtis Jones, in maybe a Chelsea team, I wouldn't see him getting that much
Yeah,
unless you're
yeah.
Mason Mount, unless you prove yourself suddenly. Do you think this is one of the strong points of this Liverpool team and the way Klopp is running this team, in the fact that he can get some of these fringe players or players you would think are secondary to the first team to come in and make that big effort, like he did with Andy Robertson, like he did with Ronaldo.
No, firstly, before I get into that, you were mentioning just now about how the goalkeeper made some mistakes, and I was watching this game, and
Yes.
I just kept on thinking back to that early 2000s Andy Gray, goalkeeper, what are you doing? You know, yeah, because the first,
That
three goals,
was
I think
was
even
that was that Almunia, right? Who was
it
playing in
was it
United Arsenal in Highbury,
United? Oh yeah,
and then he came out for the ball, and then he didn't get the ball, and Ronaldo just tapped it in,
Ronaldo
and then they
scored. Yeah,
scored.
just
Yeah,
shush the
yeah,
Arsenal fans.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Anyway, to Liverpool, Curtis Jones, right? I mean, you mentioned it being a positive that he's playing. Obviously, Harvey Elliott,
yeah,
the injury and all that. But comparing the both of them, obviously great youngsters, right? Good youngsters to come through the ranks. But Curtis Jones has that bit of mobility and skill towards him. He could beat a player.
yeah.
He could. I think he's even more pacier. And
And
I think
he's
that
got a few goals as well, for the team.
yeah, yeah, and he has goals in him. Yeah, that's a big point. So obviously, in terms of selection, if you're looking at everybody to come and sort of partner the Henderson Fabinho partnership, which obviously is the go-to Liverpool middle two out of the three, I would
Yeah,
think Curtis Jones is your guy. I thought he did well against Porto. I thought he got a good goal on the weekend, and he has to start against City, isn't it? He has to
yeah,
start against City,
yeah.
and
No, I think
looking
this is the chance L for him to prove himself, right? To be
exactly.
counted against the likes of Foden, because you see what Foden did for Manchester City, you know.
Yes, yes,
You see
and
what Mason Mount has done. You see what Jude Bellingham has done, even.
yeah,
And
yeah,
Curtis Jones has that talent, and I think Scousers, in that sense, they would love to see, like what happened with Arnold, right? Trent Alexander-Arnold. They would love to see a Scouser step into the team,
mm,
and
mm,
sort of have a big influence. And I feel that of all times, I think this is Curtis Jones' biggest chance, right, to make himself
yeah,
a big player in that team. And I'm definitely looking forward to seeing him maybe make a name for himself this season. I think that is one of the beautiful things about watching that Liverpool team, one of the beautiful things of even watching a team that doesn't rely too much on buying players, right? That
mm,
they can blood some of these youngsters into the team, like what Van Gaal did with Rashford. I think that was amazing, basically. It was
yeah,
one Europa League game where all your strikers were injured, and there was no choice but to put him in. And he
yeah.
came
Brought
and
on
just
this
took
young
that team
boy.
by storm. And his
Yeah,
life was changed instantly. I think that's one of the beautiful moments in football.
I mean, I certainly think that Curtis Jones is a great fit for Fabinho and Henderson, and he's got to just keep on showing much more positive performance, because I think the post match comments was Jurgen Klopp saying that he had a fantastic game, hailing him as a top class player, and so on and so forth, which rightly so. I thought he had a fantastic game, and yeah, I mean, of course, take nothing away from the difference in quality between the both sides. I thought it was very evident as well. But you can only beat what's in front of you, isn't it? And I thought
Yeah.
that looking at the performance of Liverpool, I mean, I thought even Firmino had a couple of goals as well. And it was very much in cruise control. I didn't think that Porto really troubled them. Of course, they got a goal, right? But I thought that Liverpool were very much in control, and I thought that the goals came early. I think Salah scored first, and I think after that it was they looked very comfortable. Obviously, they're going to have a test over the weekend, right? So that we're going to talk about that. And another mention before I forget, James Milner, man.
Yeah. He's one of the top assisters for Liverpool in the Champions League. So in terms of most assisters in the Champions League for Liverpool, is James Milner at the moment.
Yeah, no, I thought he had a decent game as well.
Yeah, it's
And
almost like we don't really miss Trent. Sometimes I
yes,
I,
yes,
I, I, I I look at that team and I'm like, geez, if Trent continues to make those mistakes, I don't think a lot of people are disappointed to see old man Milner back in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Not there
And
to
he got
learn in that sense.
and he got pulled off after what 70 minutes or something like that. And I remember Joe Gomez coming on. Makes me think, is this guy going to be against a certain Jack Grealish on Saturday or Sunday, whenever they're going to be playing?
Definitely. I think that's definitely I don't think Trent will be starting the game, so Klopp has already ruled him out with the abductor muscle issue. So it would definitely be Milner who's starting that game. So I think Al also, I think you can't forget about Milner in that sense,
Great game.
And I'm not gonna, because what was dominating the headlines for Liverpool and the Porto result was that Salah is the best player in the world right now, right?
Yeah.
I'm not really gonna get into that, Al, too much, because the stats, the goals, everything, they speak for themselves, right? But I don't think Salah should be brought into the conversation of Ronaldo and Messi just yet, until he's won a little bit more at Liverpool. Definitely, you cannot, bash the man for what he's done. I think he's been a phenomenon. I think he's a beast of a player, really. And I think many teams would love to have, but to get caught up in all this GOAT talk when we are just, not even halfway through the season yet. I'll leave that for TalkSport and all those other big guys out there.
Yeah,
I think
definitely. It's still a bit too early.
Moving on, Al. So we just ended that Champions League. So definitely Bayern and Benfica and a few of the big performers, I guess, but I think we'll have more time in the future. I think we can focus on our format once, our channel gets bigger, if you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, but moving on to the game in the weekend, one of the things that I wanted to point out, I think both teams are evenly matched, right? Pep shows that he can bounce back from a defeat very well. And it doesn't even stop that team. It galvanizes them even more. And right now, I think Salah's in the form of his life. So it's going to be a very evenly matched team. But I was thinking, what angle should we go at this preview at, Al? So the only logical way I could look at it was from the last game they played at Anfield, right? So the last game, City and Liverpool had a clash, sort of modern derby. I think the recent derby in the terms of Klopp versus Guardiola. The last clash that they had was City were dominant victors, a 4-1 victory there, right?
But Phil Foden had a great game.
Phil Foden had a great game. And also, Al, if you remember, one thing that bailed, because to be honest, last year, even with Aguero in the team, Pep didn't really use Aguero that much. I think the last year Aguero he didn't really play that much, to be honest, and he only had decisive moments here and there. But if you remember last year, what really bailed Pep out in terms of that Aguero not having a young striker was Gundogan, actually.
Yes.
Gundogan was one of the best goal scorers of City last season. I think he was one of the top goal scorers and he was one of those decisive players in that match. And like you said, Foden as well. Seems like City have no problem playing in an empty stadium because it was empty Anfield. And Liverpool, I don't think they have a problem, to be honest, playing in an empty stadium. But I just want to point out that everybody's saying, it's Liverpool's going to do this and that, Salah's going to do this and that. Just remember, the last time these two teams played, Foden had a blinder of a game. And he'd be looking to recreate that exact same thing, right? Pep is going to tell those players, look what you did to Liverpool last time. You kicked them when they were down, basically. And who's to say you can't go out there and put a performance like that again? I definitely feel the fact that Henderson and Fabinho was playing in that last game at centre-back is definitely a big difference for Liverpool. I think the bigger difference, rather than Salah having a good season, is Van Dijk back in that team. That's definitely going to make a big difference, because 2 of the City goals came from Alisson errors, basically. So he was passing it back to Fabinho, and when Fabinho puts him under pressure and passes it back to him, he didn't have that defensive sort of stability that comes with having Van Dijk in your team. Right? So I feel one of the decisive things is Van Dijk being back in the team. It'll be interesting.
It's going to be a big
and also with a full Anfield, we will see how City responds with a full Anfield, because we saw what they did with a sort of empty Anfield and a sort of a makeshift defense that Klopp was desperately trying to hold on to last season. So on the run of play, I'm giving City the benefit of the doubt here based on the fact that they were 4-1 victors the last time that they came to Anfield. And I don't want to count them out based on the fact that they lost to PSG and they don't have a striker, blah, 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 because we know what that team is capable of.
Yeah,
and,
no, definitely.
And it's looking to be a great game, actually, between both teams.
If you look at it tactically, they're very, very matched up. I mean, stacked up against each other, and it looks almost evenly matched. Of course, I think the one, again, you mentioned it, one big difference, I think, which is going to be the factor or the telling point is going to be Anfield.
Yeah.
I think the last game with the full Anfield crowd of this game was the 3-1, right?
Yes.
Was it the 3-1 home win? The one
yes,
Fabinho scored a screamer. Yeah, and yes. I remember that game. City they just could not battle against the 12 men, let alone the 11 on the pitch.
No, Liverpool's Anfield record against Pep, I think he's made it clear that that's the worst place for him to come to, and he doesn't not like coming to a full Anfield.
Correct. So I think that's going to be the big difference. So of course, on Pep's mind, as with every top away manager that's going to be coming to Anfield, it's going to be silencing the crowd. I think in a lot of ways, if you talk about it tactics-wise, I think Phil Foden has got to start. I think Grealish definitely has got to start. Who's going to be playing in the middle is going to be a mystery. We could be seeing Bernardo Silva again. Or we could be seeing Raheem Sterling.
And I definitely think this team misses Gundogan to a certain extent.
Yes,
because Gundogan, if we look back at Pep's first season, right, at Manchester City, do you remember that game against Barcelona at home in the Champions League in the group stage when Messi got that one goal? He was having blonde hair, but then City slapped them 4-1 on the day, right?
Correct. Yes.
Gundogan got 2 goals in that game, and they played without Aguero at the start. So I think Gundogan was having that false 9 role, and he did get the goals out. And I think Gundogan has been a very underrated player for Guardiola.
He has, and I think that tactically they're very well matched. It might be a close one. But
I was going to ask you not to do a prediction for the Liverpool game this week because I thought you might go for us. I mean, you might go for Liverpool, and the fact that I do hope you get this one right, and I hope it doesn't look like what happened last week. But, so based on the Anfield factor, I think you say the Anfield factor is going to be the deciding factor.
That's going to be the telling point.
For me, I think one of things that has made me enjoy watching City and Pep is to see how he can overcome challenges like this.
Correct.
And this is a challenge like no other. And I think we'll end at that point, right? I think there's a lot more to be said, but we will have a look there at sort of the matches. So just to have a quick look at some of the matches this weekend, I think United Everton will be a good game. I think it would be both teams, I think, evenly matched on same points. So both teams on 13 points with 4 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. So it'll be an interesting match there, and it would both teams will be looking to get the result there. Chelsea, Southampton, it'll be interesting to see how Chelsea can bounce back from this 2-1-0 defeat. And Hasenhüttl, it's not a great team to be having a bounce back against, because he'll be looking to prove himself against Tuchel. That's another interesting battle. I think Brighton, Arsenal as well would be a great game because Brighton have been on a good run of form, and Arsenal will be looking
Arsenal on a high as well.
Yeah, because they have to get a result against Brighton, because a lot of them will be saying there's no point going and beating Spurs in North London derby and getting all high, losing to Brighton.
And then losing to Brighton. Correct.
Yeah. So that'll be an interesting test. And another match I wanted to point out was West Ham and Brentford. I think we got to be looking for a little bit of a goal fest here. I don't think both teams are going to sit back and, look for a result. I think West Ham and Brentford will be a great game to watch as well.
I think that's going to be a cracker.
Yeah. As well as Crystal Palace and Leicester, to be fair, because, with the English Premier League, guys, we love this league because every single game can be a banger. Even the best of games can disappoint. It's really unpredictable, and it's really hard for us to do these predictions, man. So I'm not going to do the predictions for this week.
Yeah. I I think it's clear people know we don't play Magnum and Toto and all these things like, like horribly wrong.
Yeah, I think we are great at observing the matches, right? For what it is in that sense. But yeah, well, we're not the betting types. We'll leave the
Yeah,
betting.
definitely.
But yeah, so Pep back at Anfield, we'll get to see another full Anfield factor, and we get to see whether they get under Pep's skin again and whether he will be able to rise up against that challenge. You could see that he had a little bit of a flirtatious moment there with PSG and Verratti and Messi and a few of those players there, but yeah, he'd be looking to get his team back to his best, and definitely that would be the game of the weekend. And we'd be excited to bring you our review next week of that match. So that's all from me, Jerry, for today's show.
Right, guys, see you all around. See you all next week.
Take care.
And take care of yourselves.
Have a great weekend ahead. Ciao.
Ciao. Bye.